There's a hardware store on a Tuesday morning, and a man standing third in line with a box of drywall screws and one furnace filter, the cheap pleated kind, $3.80 or so, and his debit card's been out and ready in his hand for a good 4 minutes. When his turn finally comes, the young fella at the register can't be more than 20, looks up, and his eyes go clean over the top of the man's head. Right on past him. Next, the kid says, to the woman waiting behind. It's nothing. Half a second, and it's done. The man steps up anyhow, sets his screws on the counter, gets wrung out polite enough, have a good one. But something landed in that half a second, didn't it? The kid's eyes didn't catch on him, didn't snag, slid right off, the way your eye slides off a lamppost or a parked car or the wallpaper in a doctor's waiting room. And if you're a man somewhere out on the back nine of your life, I'd bet the farm you know that exact feeling. You felt the eyes slide off you. At the parts counter, at your own grandkid's birthday, with half the room talking clean over you, at a party where you used to be the one folks leaned in to hear, and now you could stand up, announce you were moving to Cleveland in the morning, and not one soul would look up from their phone. The world has, somewhere along the line, quietly stopped seeing you. And everybody agrees this is about the saddest thing that can happen to a man. The big, slow tragedy of getting old. You were somebody once. You filled a doorway. And now, you're furniture against the wall, and the young ones move around you like you're a coat rack that somehow learned to talk. That's the story. The only story anybody tells about it. And I'm here to tell you, the story's got it backwards. Near about all the way backwards. Because I don't think you got erased. I think you got let off the hook. And those are two very different things, even if they look the same from the outside. So let me back up and tell you what that spotlight cost you, all those years you were standing square in the middle of it. Because you were. From about the time you were a young man, somebody was always watching. Your old man checking, were you turning out soft? The drill sergeant or the foreman or whoever it was that first taught you a man is judged. The boss, the wife, Lord love her, reading your face the second you walked in the door, doing the arithmetic on what kind of mood had come home that night, the kids watching to learn how a man's supposed to act, the neighbors keeping a quiet tally of your lawn, your car, your daughter's wedding, how high the new fence ran, and you got good at it. That's the part that wears on a man looking back. You got so good, you stopped noticing you were even doing it. The firm handshake you practiced, the big laugh you kept loaded for the boss's same 3 jokes at the company picnic, the one about his golf swing, you must have laughed at that one 200 times like it was the first you'd heard it. The way you'd square your shoulders in the church lot before you'd so much as got the car door shut. 10,000 little performances so worn into you they came to feel like your own face. Every blessed move on display. You stood up straight because somebody might be looking. You bit your tongue because somebody might hear. You bought the truck partly because you liked it, and partly, be honest now, partly because of what it said about you to the fella across the street. For 40, 50 years, a man performs. He's an actor who never once gets to leave the stage, never gets the house lights down, never gets to just sit in the dark and stop holding his stomach in. And here's the thing the folks who study this kind of business stumbled onto, and it stuck with me. They had a hunch that people walk around badly overestimating how much anybody's actually watching them. So they ran it, took a young fella, made him put on a deliberately embarrassing T-shirt, some loud, goofy thing nobody'd be caught dead in, and sent him into a room full of people. Then they asked him, "How many in there clocked your shirt?" And the kid figured, oh, about half of them, easy. Felt like the whole room was staring. Then they went and asked the room. Wasn't half. Wasn't close to half. Most folks hadn't noticed the shirt at all. Couldn't have told you a thing about it. They've got a name for that. The point is, the spotlight a young man feels burning down on him, an awful lot of it is a spotlight he's pointing at himself. The crowd he's so sure is judging him is mostly busy starring in its own movie, worried sick about its own shirt. And it goes deeper than that. Same crew found that when a person trips up, says the dumb thing, spills the drink, he's dead certain everybody will remember it and think less of him for a month. They don't. They forgot by the parking lot. We are all of us convinced we're being filmed, and we're all just about extras in somebody else's picture. Now sit with what that means for a young man. He is locked inside a prison whose walls are an audience that was never really there. He can't wear the wrong coat, can't dance bad at the wedding, can't cry at the funeral the way he needs to, can't order what he wants, can't say the unpopular thing at the table, can't walk away from the conversation that's boring him to tears, because the eyes are on him. Or so he believes, and believing it is enough to run his whole life. So now, come back to that hardware store, come back to the kid's eyes sliding right off the top of your head. That's not the world rejecting you, friend. That's the warden leaving the cell door open and walking off whistling. The eyes came off you. The performance is over, and nobody sent you the memo. So you've been standing there in the empty theater, lights up, mistaking your freedom for a punishment. You can wear the same gray jacket 4 days running, and not one stranger keeps count. You can let the gut go a little. You can wear the tie with the soup stain on it because it's your favorite tie, and the soup stain is, 11 years old now and part of the family. You can say the blunt, true thing at the dinner table and watch it land and not lie awake replaying it because you've finally figured out what took most men a lifetime, that the table forgot it before the pie came out. You are, for the first time since you were a small boy, off camera. And off camera is where a man finally gets to find out who he actually is when nobody's grading the performance. And it's the small things that'll catch you by surprise. A fella told me the best part of his whole week now is he eats his lunch standing up at the kitchen counter straight out of the pan, and there's not one person left on God's earth to tell him to sit down like a civilized human being. Another one walks to the mailbox in his robe and slippers at 2 in the afternoon and gives a big friendly wave to whoever's driving past. And they wave right back because nobody's keeping score anymore but him, and he quit keeping score a long time ago. You can hum in the cereal aisle. You can talk to the dog like he's the sharpest fella you know. Little freedoms. But a whole life is built out of little things, and these particular ones are finally all the way yours. I'll tell you when it hit me square. Fella I know, call him Ray, told me he was walking past the bank downtown, the one with the big plate glass front, and he caught his own reflection in it. And he braced, the way you do, ready to suck the belly in, square the shoulders, fix the collar. Old reflex, 50 years deep. And then he just didn't. Stood there a second, looking at this gray-headed old boy in the glass, and behind that reflection, on the other side, 2 young tellers going about their day, looking right through him at the street, not seeing him at all. And Ray said he felt something he hadn't felt since before he could remember. He felt off the leash. The window was showing him the goods inside and him outside, and the world's eye went to the goods every time and slid off old Ray standing there, and for once in his life that didn't sting one bit. It felt like getting away with something. Now, I have to pull up here a minute and walk careful because I know who's listening. There are men hearing my voice who don't feel 1 ounce of freedom in this. They feel discarded. There's a difference, and it's a big one, and I'm not going to paper over it with pretty talk. The man who gave a company 31 years and got walked out with a sheet cake and a handshake and the sudden roaring quiet of nobody needing him by Monday, that's not freedom, that's a wound. The widower who used to be half of a we, who walked into every room as part of a pair, and now stands in the doorway an odd number, the only one nobody's looking for. That invisible cuts to the bone. If that's where you are, if the not being seen sits on your chest like a wet wool coat that won't dry, then hear me. That ache is real, and there's no shame in it, and it is not the thing I'm talking about tonight. Because here's the line, and the line is everything. Being invisible to the cashier, to the crowd, to strangers who are never going to matter, that's the gift. Being invisible to your own people, to the ones who are supposed to see you, that's the thing you fight. You don't sit alone in that one. You pick up the phone and you call the buddy, the brother, the kid, whoever's still got eyes that catch on you when you walk in. Don't let pride tell you that you're past being seen. You are not by them. And that's the part people miss when they pity the quiet old man. They figure he's got nobody. He's got somebody, 2 or 3 somebodies usually, and you watch how he is with them. There's a fella he'd get in the car and drive clear to the next state for, no questions, middle of the night. A grand kid who lights him up like a porch bulb. Those folks see him fine. The man didn't lose his audience. He fired the 10,000 strangers and kept the 3 people whose eyes he actually trusts. That's not a man who shrank. That's a man who edited. And there's a quiet that comes with putting the costume down that I don't think the young can even imagine. The folks who study how a man's mind changes as he ages found something about it. That the older a fella gets, the less he chews on the slights, the sour looks, the somebody cut me off in traffic of the day. He just lets more of it slide off, same as a kid's eyes slid off him. He steers his attention on purpose toward what's good and what's warm and lets the rest go on by. Folks see that and call it him checking out. It isn't. It's him finally spending his attention like the limited thing it always was, instead of handing it out free to every stranger with an opinion. You stop rehearsing conversations in the shower. You stop drafting the clever comeback for an argument that ended in 1994. You stop bracing every time you walk into a room for the verdict. The verdict's not coming. It never was coming, not really. You just had to get old enough and tired enough and free enough to quit waiting on it. And the quiet that moves into the space where all that bracing used to live, it's something else. You'd figure a man would rattle around lonesome in it. Mostly, though, he settles into it like a good chair. The phone can ring or it can sit there dead, and either way's just fine. Somebody can think well of him today or think nothing of him at all, and it lands about the same, which is to say, it lands soft, and then it's gone. And I'll tell you, if any of this is hitting a nerve, if you know the feeling of the eyes sliding right off you, and I figure most of you do, Do an old man a favor and say so down in the comments. Tell me where you felt it. I read every last one of them, and I'll be straight with you. It means more than you'd think. So, back to the hardware store one more time, because that's where we started, and I want to leave you there. The man pays for his screws and his cheap furnace filter, and he walks out through the glass door. And on his way out, he catches himself in it. Gray hair, the old jacket, the works. And behind the glass, the young clerk's already on to the next customer, already forgotten him, eyes pointed somewhere else entirely. And the man doesn't suck the gut in, doesn't square up, doesn't fix a thing. He just looks at the old boy in the glass, and the old boy looks back, and the two of them have a little understanding now that nobody else in that store is in on. Nobody's watching him, not a soul. And after 60-some years on a stage he never asked to stand on. Lord, what a thing to finally be free of. He pushes the door open, and the bell over it gives that little jingle, and he steps out into the parking lot, into the plain gray Tuesday, into the rest of a day that belongs to nobody on this earth but him. And not one person sees him go, which is, I have come to believe, just about the finest way there is to leave a room.